Okay, that's good. Let's talk about Makeshift, because we try to talk about someone's business, in the early part. But
I do love Makeshift.
What is Makeshift? I mean, you just kind of discussed it, but like, I always ask simple questions like, what have you done with Makeshift, and what are your plans, or what are you going to do, and what makes you different? Or I always say, why will you win? I know that's a bit of an egotistical frame I'm putting on that, but I'll leave you with those questions. What is Makeshift?
Makeshift is a startup studio, and that is a reasonably new type of business operation that takes signals from the kind of incubators and accelerators of the world, and also kind of gives a nod towards a kind of VC model. So what we do is we are a team of people who work on our own ideas. We are all makers, so there's about 12 of us in the company now, and
your title is Makers.
Yeah,
okay,
makers,
cool.
Digital makers, that's the way we look at it. It's called generalists, people who can kind of turn their hand to lots of different parts of a startup. And the idea is that we are repeatedly making things that could turn into digital businesses. So each month we're releasing a new product. So this year, we're ahead actually. I think we've done 13 hacks, and we're probably going to hit about 20 by the end of the year or something. So we are letting 1,000 flowers bloom. So rather than a startup, which would be, which you're familiar with, one idea, one team, and a very singular direction in where you're going to go, and you're going to die or fail or win and succeed based on like whether you've got your idea right at the beginning, or whether you can adapt fast enough to find the right idea by pivoting. That's what a lot of people call it.
I like that word and hate that word at the same time.
So I have a similar feeling about it. Our approach is quite different to that, because we're not going after one idea. We could have done that, but actually the three of us who founded the company, we all come from kind of different backgrounds that converged on this model, this startup studio model. And there's a bunch of different reasons for that. Paul Birch, who's one of my founders, he was one of the guys who benefited from the Bebo sale. He was there right at the beginning of that, and he
Michael Birch's brother, the founder of Bebo.
Okay, I've heard the name.
He's probably most well known for Birthday Alarm, which was an early kind of viral hit. It's a very simple idea where you get reminders about people you know and when their birthdays are.
Right.
And it's brilliantly viral, and it just says, for this service to work really well, please upload your entire address book. And then the next person gets it, and then maybe 1 out of 20 or something will upload their entire address book, and then on it goes. So you get a lot of people on it very quickly. And so that was very successful. So Paul's had some big wins. He's also had some pretty big losses. He's had some failures as well as successes. But because he's done pretty well, he's been investing in some of the most well-known startups in London as an angel. But he really wanted to get back to the craft. He wanted to get back to the early making feeling, rather than being involved just at the kind of governance level.
Is this hacking or is this design?
For Paul, it's I think it's the process of designing startups. I think that's what he is interested in. Nick, who is my other founder, is the design. So Paul is like the experienced entrepreneur on the team. Nick used to be the design director at Psychic Studios, and they're doing some really great design work. They continue to do great work. And we formed a really good relationship, because I'm the kind of tech guy, he's the design guy, and then we have the kind of experienced entrepreneur guy. And it's one of those T-shaped startup setups, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So three beards.
The hacker, the hustler, and the hipster, right? That's
hacker,
basically
the hustler, and the hipster.
We fit that model totally. And what we decided to do was to take what we'd learned from the comic relief process, and what Paul had learned from doing kind of repeated angel investing, and do something quite innovative in that we would repeat that process of having a good idea and then doing a hack and then testing it out very, very rapidly by putting it out really, really quickly, but doing it in repeat.
Okay. So if I walk into Makeshift today, what would I see? Like, how many people are there? What kind of workstations are they on? What's like a typical day at Makeshift?
About 12 of us in a little studio just by Old Street Roundabout. Okay. We had to be there, really.
Same with us.
Talk about accelerating serendipity, and if you're in that area, it's probably the most serendipitous area in East London, right?
So location
Everyone's
matters.
around. It's easy to bump into people. You get the advantage of having a space that you can have events in. So a typical day is probably a couple of us in there reasonably early. It's quite calm.
8-ish, 9-ish?
About 9-ish probably kicks off.
Okay.
It's kind of got a quite relaxed, ascetic kind of feeling to it. It's quite dimly lit. Everyone's sitting there with on a beanbag or on a desk.
Music?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
It feels like a home, because it was a home. It was someone's flat, so it's
Okay.
got a kitchen in it. It's really nice environment, and we're trying to make it the kind of optimum environment for digital makers to be in.
Okay.
So we're kind of self-analyzing, like, is this good? Do we like being here? What can we do to make it better? We've got a 2-story shed out the back. We call it the shed scraper. I don't even know what it's for yet.
Okay.
It's just
But
there.
you have a shed.
We have this
All
shed.
of your hardware.
Just in
The
case.
Well, we're going
hardware.
to have to have a 3D printer in there or something. Right?
You're gonna have
It's
to put something big in
something
there.
like that.
But do you need any of that stuff right now, or was like an iMac enough?
It's
for-
really mini. Yeah, everyone just has a laptop,
Okay.
and we all work in the way that we want to work. We have standing desks and things going on.
And will there be client projects you're working on? Will a company come in and pay you X to do something for them, or is this just all ideas you have?
We don't take on any client work. No, that was
Okay. That was your old job.
crucial thing. Like, we could go and do that, or we could go and do a startup, but we want to do something very different. And so on the walls of our studio is kind of our status, post-it notes and bits of paper stuck everywhere. But the crucial thing is that we've got all of the products that we're working on kind of as a little status view. And we've got this process that we're now developing, which is probably the most important part of Makeshift. Shall I just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, go.
So having ideas isn't hard. We've all got loads of ideas. There's no problem with having ideas. It's kind of filtering the good ideas from the bad ideas is the trick. So what we do as a team is we're always constantly scratching our own itches. Like, if we've found a little problem, we'll do little hacks. And anyone can just at any point just go and do a little tiny little experiment. Just a few hours testing something out, experimenting with something. And then once a quarter, we all get round together, and we would have prepared presentations about the things we've learned from scratching our itches, and we proposed doing a hack on an idea. So I proposed a few ideas at the last one. One of them got made, and we did a little hack day. So this was Build Grabber, and it's everyone's building websites all the time. Wouldn't it be great if every day something's just taking a snapshot of the homepage and putting it in your Dropbox? Like, that's a really dumb idea, but you can see a lot of people wanting that.
Like a time lapse.
So you can then make a video of what your website looked like through time
Okay.
for months or years, or you could look at your competitors' websites. Or very simple idea.
Okay.
So that's an example. Or maybe attending, which is an event service that was very, very minimal. It just lets you see who else is attending an event that you're going to, and you can follow them on Twitter. It's very, very minimal.
We use
small
that now for
things.
Drink About.
Oh, really?
We're alpha beta testing it. It's great.
Oh yeah, I've seen you asking if you're going to go and that.
So
kind of
it's basically like for Silicon Drink About, it's not a registered event, it's not a ticketed event, even
Right.
like the other 3 events. So we needed a system where people could kind of just see, but like just with their Twitter account, so they didn't have to go through a hassle. So these guys built it, and we were like, "Yep, we will test that," and it's working really, really well.
Seems to be
Okay.
working. You gotta-
Let me ask like just an obvious question. Like, how do you fund yourself? Do you have to sell an idea, or is it an idea have to become something that?
Well, we're very lucky in that Paul has had some big successes in the past, so he's able to fund us entirely.
Okay.
At some point, I'm sure that we'll be taking external investment in the things that we make, but we're not at that point yet because
Okay.
we're quite early.
So you're kind of always before an incubator, before an accelerator. You're just generating ideas.
Well, the trick is that because we're able to come up with these small hacks, we can then test them quickly. So we pitch these ideas to ourselves, and then we pick the things that we're going to go for. And then we do like a 1-day hack, or a week hack, or a 2-week hack, depending on what we want to put in. And then we release it, and we test it
In the wild.
with live people.
Okay.
And that's it. It's out there.
Okay.
And then we
But you
learn
won't-
based
but you
on the
won't
behavior.
sell it per se. You'll just
No,
see
not at that
if it
point, because
works.
it's just an experiment.
Okay.
And then if we get a good signal back from it, we get people saying, this is lovely. So, I mean, the Drink About guys using attending is a great signal, because that means anybody in the world who's organising a meetup or a tech meetup would be able to use our service, and they're keen to, so that would mean that other people would be. So that means to us, right, that's a signal that we should then invest. So we then put in 3 months of 3-person time up to about £100,000 into that idea to get it to the point where we've got it to that crucial kind of product market fit point, or approaching that, where you've sufficiently improved it or moved it around to fit what the customers or the clients or the users are saying about it, and so that it's actually useful and they're willing to pay, or there's some obvious
but it's not
revenue model.
It's not a business yet.
It's not a business yet.
Okay.
But at that point, you've then de-risked it, because we'll have had another handful of ideas that just didn't make it. So they've all been killed.
Right.
So we've tried a bunch of stuff out. Something just doesn't work. We don't do it. And that's totally opposite to what happens if you're doing a startup, because you've got one idea for a startup. You go and pitch it to your friends and family. Your friends and family then give you their life savings. And then you've got to make that idea work. Now, that's great if the idea works, right? Or you've got time, or you've got enough runway to be able to get it off the ground. But if you've got a really bad idea, then you could really get sucked into following through on that idea just because you've had that trust from people, and you've got to keep going. You've got to keep going. And I've been there. I've kind of sucked myself into products and things that just weren't working, but because I've promised that they've got to work and I've put my reputation on the line behind it, you end up with this massive opportunity cost where you've spent so long that you've got to spend more time on it.
Yeah, social pressure is really powerful.
And what we've done at Makeshift is to say, you know what, we're going to try all of these. Guys, please help. Please have a go. Check them out. We'll learn from you. Suggest stuff to us. If we think they're going to work, then we'll follow through. But if they're not working, we're just going to kill them.
Okay. Have you spun out different businesses? Have you done this like 100 grand here, 100 grand there, multiple times?
We've got about 4 things in that kind of product point now, I think.
Okay.
We haven't. I think probably 2 of the things that we've gone for have got to that point now.
And if they get a critical mass, will you when you go out and find someone outside of your space to be the CEO, be the this, be the that?
That's the crucial question at the moment, because
sure.
we could bring in external entrepreneurs at the point where we've kind of de-risked those things. So they've gone through that big filter, and we've got it so that we've got some users, we've got some revenue. That's possibly a good point to bring someone else in. It could be a point to spin it out as a separate company. So with one of our things that we're releasing next month, because it's banking related, we had to do it as a separate entity and to get FCA approval and all that sort of stuff. And it did kind of require that extra step. We are looking at that. And actually, we're trying to learn from what other people who've done similar stuff around the world have done. There's few of these kinds of models. Some guys in Germany, there's BetaWorks in America, there's Science. A lot of these people have they usually have a kind of an industry focus. So it will just be like healthcare or web tech or something. And the trick for us is at what point do we decide to make that change, or do we try to keep it as our own team and just grow the team to the point where we get there? So there's questions there.
No, I think you kind of laid out the model.
You can see why I wanted to get him in. This is why I'm quite fascinated with Makeshift as a concept. It's quite new, but if you think about it, it's like, of all the startups we speak to, and they're like, so far we've been very lucky. We've had lots of wonderful big founders, but there are many that obviously fail. But they've got 20, did you say, products so far?
We're going to be going for about that this year, I think.
And 4 at the moment are just in a point. I have 20 ideas, and bearing in mind that the team, I know a few members of the team aside from Stef, they're very talented people. Everyone was quite in the scene was very what are they doing over there? Because you suddenly had these interesting, very talented people who'd all done various levels of startups and businesses coming together. But the idea I think is really interesting and worth keeping an eye on is because it's this just rapid, iterative, real-time, 20 ideas, crank them out, see which one flies, and get back 4.
No, that's good. This is usually where we hit with a few devil's advocate questions.
Yeah,
I hope you have one.
I got one. Language translation company completely went bust. Most of that team today, it powers Google Translate. Rockstar guys, and that company had it was a terrible trajectory. It was lots of mistakes inside the company. It started in Japan versus in the U.S. Founder was a little nuts and kind of quirky. Lots of scars there, but the people were exceptionally talented and they've all ended up in good spots. So that was a failure for him. Second business that he went to was he joined a